Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. Today's edition, Ask Dr. Moo.
Ask Dr. Moo.
Ask Dr. Moo. Joining me is Moose and Tony and anyone else who wants to be.
Yeah, we're not fussy.
Yeah, you got to go over to the YouTube stream and you'll see where you can get into the studio. And if you don't want to, fine, because you have the opportunity to ask Dr. Moo in real time with comments. So, and I'm going to be tracking them today. The reason I'm doing this is because there seems to be some question as to what I want the Browns to do or what I think the Browns should do given the situation that they're in. And so, howdy there. How you doing, Mark? So here's and Ron Shane saying which quarterback is playing on Sunday. I don't know exactly what that means, but we'll get into it in just a minute. All right. So first of all, let's start with what I would do immediately if I
What would you do immediately, Dr. Moo?
I would be splitting the first unit reps with between Gabriel and Flacco this week. 50-50 down the middle. Shedeur is clearly not ready to start, and I'm not so sure that Dylan Gabriel is ready to start, but I know that
Flacco's not ready to start either.
That he can only do so much at this point in time. And we saw some of those fallibilities when he was on the field. He's very slow of foot. Not that he was ever fast, but he's really slow of foot now. And
get hurt.
There are signs of balls coming up short, that maybe the arm isn't quite what it used to be. And so that's the first thing. And the reason that I would be doing this is because, in my estimation, the head coach put a big lid on this at his presser when somebody said, are we looking at a possible quarterback change? And he said, no. And I thought about it and I said, well, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're going to be out of a job. Okay. Plain and simple, you're going to be out of a job at the end of the year. There is not going to be anything in the world that's going to save Kevin Stefanski. And we'll get to that in a little bit, and I'll explain why that is. So the notion of him saying, no, I'm going to stay with the 40-year-old is that he wants to keep his job for as long as he can, and he knows what he's dealing with Flacco. Flacco will play his offense, knows it, and he feels that a veteran would have a better chance to win the more than 3 games than they won last year, which Jimmy Hansel has already stated that, we've got to do better. And when they pressed him, like, numerically, Jimmy, and he can't count very high, but he said more than 3. Okay. Woo! All right. So that's how that works. So you want to win more than 3 games. That's what Stefanski's job depends upon. And so he's going to stick with Flacco. But that's not in the best interest of the organization long term, nor does it help us out when we have to make real decisions in next year's draft. So that's the first thing. I want Gabriel ready. And the reason is because if Flacco plays like shite again and turns the ball over multiple times, Gabriel's not just going to come in for a mop-up job. He's going to have to run this offense against first-line defenders and see what it's all about. And believe me, every rookie at one time or another in their careers has to do this. Some succeed and some fail.
Many fail.
We'll get to that in a moment. Now, here's the next thing. I would sit Flacco after the next game. In other words, I'm going to give him a chance to start this week and play for as long as he doesn't give the game away. But there is no future in Joe Flacco with the Cleveland Browns. Anybody with half a brain realizes you're not going to make it with a 40-year-old quarterback, especially when you see the quarterbacks getting hammered around the league and getting injured. And with the lack of offensive line, Flacco, his body at 40 years of age will not hold up. So unless he were to come in and do something miraculous, and I don't believe that Flacco has any miracles left in him, because last year he was 2-4 with Indy and didn't play particularly well. And he doesn't have talent on this team that he can fall back on, nor does he have an offensive line he can rely upon for a running game. There's a whole host of reasons why there's a problem. So in my mind, you're giving half of the reps to Gabriel this week, and you're going to give all of them to him next week and say, son, we're 0-3. And there isn't anything worse than and whatever number you put after it. There is nothing worse. So let's see if we can start determining who's who and what we want to do in the future. Now, here's the next thing. The following week, give Shedeur a quarter of the first unit reps after this week. And this should not be hard for people to understand, because by then Dillon Gabriel will understand the offense, and taking 75% of the snaps with the first unit makes sense. But he's 5'9" and very low weight. And if he gets nailed behind that offensive line, then you're going to have to put in another quarterback. And after you demote Joe Flacco, chances are Joe's not going to be real happy with the situation. He's 40 years old on a losing team, sitting on the bench waiting for one of the young guys to get hurt. Second of all, Dr. Moo says that giving Shedeur 25% of the first unit reps after this week, when Dillon Gabriel becomes the starter, does two things. It keeps motivation in front of Dillon Gabriel, knowing that there's somebody pushing him. The 40-year-old ain't pushing him because there's no future. For Shedeur, it's telling Shedeur, hey, look, you turned the Ravens down because you didn't want to go to Baltimore, because you didn't want to be behind Lamar Jackson, and you didn't want to be compared to Lamar Jackson. And so you said, no thanks, when they came knocking at your door in the 5th round. So this way, Shedeur will see a little ray of light and will say, hey, you know something? I'm getting some of the first unit reps. I'm starting to learn and understand this system. And we're not hoping anything bad happens to Dillon Gabriel. But he's small, and if he has to come out of the game for any reason, Shedeur will slowly be getting up to speed, working, first unit reps. If it happens quickly, unfortunately, you're going to probably have to put Flacco back in, because Shedeur still won't be ready for that. All right. Here's the reason why overall. You have gone out of your way in the draft to draft 2 quarterbacks. And you're still talking about, well, you were earlier, hey, we're going to get Arch Manning. And it's like,
you need the Bullwinkle voice for that one.
Yeah. Hey, I think we should get Arch Manning. Even though he's from the wrong genetic pool, technically. So wow. His father was never a quarterback. So there. So do we need to get another quarterback in the draft next year? The only way you're going to know is to assess these 2 young men. One of them for sure is going to become a backup quarterback at the very least. Most people think that's the case for Dillon Gabriel. However, you just don't know. And you're taking the time to draft people, you're paying them money, assess their abilities so that you can make a determination whether you move on with one of these 2 or both of these 2 as starter and backup, and that frees you up to do more things, or in the draft, or do you need to go ahead and draft a quarterback in next year's draft? So I'm going to stop right there because I haven't been looking at the comments because I got to keep flipping back and forth here.
Yeah, I have to say that this like little bullet points that you're showing reminds me of very bad Zoom meetings that I had when I used to work. So
I'm spelling this out as easily as
this
I
is like
can.
what PowerPoint by a required meeting from
Yes.
HR. You know, maybe,
You know something? This is not style. This is content. Okay.
okay.
There's no way that I have time to piece together the show, to produce the show, to do
You need
everything
a
I'm
flow
doing.
chart with like ifs and what and yes and no and
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
Flacco gets injured, then yes. You know. Anyway,
And and Double P is chiming in, and I agree. I mean, and if you're at home watching this on YouTube or on
my
X or
sympathy.
whatever, you can see the comments that are coming in
Yeah,
real
you can.
time. So if I'm behind, it's because I'm an ass, and asses are behind. And Tony Graber is saying, I do think Kevin will be fired this year. Well, he's trying to do everything he can not to be fired, and you
He
can't
doesn't want
blame
to
him
be.
for that.
He doesn't
Double
want to
P
be.
is also claiming that Flacco has gotten the short end of the stick with the schedule. But the bottom line is that's part of the reason why he's starting the season. We wanted to see where we stood against good competition, and the beginning part of this schedule is hellacious. And I don't consider it the short end of the stick. I consider it the NFL reality when the league continues to schedule one of the worst franchises with hideous schedules year after year. Bronx UK says, "Hey, Dr. Moo, what is
What is
turf
turf
toe?"
toe?
Turf toe is a condition in which and it's in severities, and this is a grade 3 for Joe Burrow.
Grade 3. I didn't know they had grades.
They call it turf toe because when the big toe in the foot will get jammed into the ground, and
Ooh.
in some instances turf
Ooh.
toe is like a bruising that is so easily brought back with just the slightest amount of content that is or contact.
Yeah.
Yep, that you're at any given moment you can go down and start limping. In this instance, you have a grade 3, which means the only way that he's going to be able to play is after surgery, and that's 3 months from now.
So what's like the surgery? What is it, like the big knuckle on the big toe that's buggered, or
I'm not
the
exactly
bone?
positive. I just know from experience of athletes having this that even a grade 1 can get worse, and it is a niggling thing that just keeps at people. And in the quarterback position, it would be deadly because in receivers too, they can't cut.
Well,
There's a whole series
Darius
of
Garland have that or something similar?
that very similar, very very similar. Yep.
Okay. So
And
like
you can see what happened to him. He tried to play through it.
he had no control of his shot anymore because he couldn't drive off his foot.
And people are saying they all want to fire Kevin. And, in the end, I think we all know what's in store.
Well, my question about Kevin is I don't know how long he's signed up for. I mean, if the Haslam's have to eat lots of money on a
the Haslam's have lots of money.
I know they do, but they don't like spending it really.
Well, but here's the thing. If he just brings back 3 wins again this year, he has to fire him. I mean, there's no, and I'll get to this in just a minute because you're moving ahead of me here. And Pat is saying, I still see we are getting caught up by the fat finger from the big white hand. Same old, same old. Well, I mean, again, the owner of the team is the owner of the team, and that's the way that's going to wind up going. There's not a whole hell of a lot you're going to do about that. Now we're going to go right on back to our presentation, as Brunk would say. Here's the plan of Dr. Moo's. Okay, all of this is everything. I'm not saying the Browns are going to do this. I'm saying that if I were in charge of the team, this is what I would do. I would release Kevin Stefanski at the end of the season. The reason being, he's going to get a job someplace else. He is very hireable. But the whole point of this year was for him to reestablish his offense.
Yeah.
And he felt, for whatever reason, that he could do it with the offensive line intact the way it was, and that with running backs without Nick Chubb, because he was aware of the fact that Chubb's career was basically over.
Yep.
And that he wanted to bring that 1-3 three tight end thing back and run it back so that he could have his 2020 glory year season and prove that any knucklehead can play quarterback, sorry Baker, in Kevin Stefanski's scheme. Well, it ain't working. And by the end of the season, everyone's going to know that Kevin Stefanski could not survive this organization. I'm not going to say anything bad about Kevin. There's no reason to badmouth him. The fact is that his best playing card isn't working with this group of players.
Well,
so
I won't disagree with that, but one fact that actually happened yesterday was that the Browns gained more yards than the Ravens.
Well, yeah, but
offense.
But
that actually happened.
Wow.
I know they didn't win and didn't score, but
no. And what's the use if you move down the field? Then your quarterback just gives it to the other team. I mean, it doesn't matter at that point. The next thing that I would do would keep our defensive coordinator at all costs, except making him the head coach. All right. The one thing that Schwartz might be willing to do would be, well, sure, I'll stay with you, but I need that head coach position again. No. And if that happens, you have to let him go too.
Yeah, but I could see him going, definitely.
And I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I would be keeping him at all costs except for that one price, because that's too high a price. And the reason I say this is looking at the job that he's done with the pieces he's been given. He's done a hell of a job. It's not like our defensive line, with the exception of Myles Garrett, are filled with big names. Far from it. But, I mean, they did what they said they were going to do. They stopped Derrick Henry. They just stopped him cold.
He did nothing.
They did their job to stop the opposition. 21 points handed over to the Ravens means they only scored basically 20 points on their own. And what I would tell you about the defense is playing with backup secondary men. And that was like Harden and I forget the other guy's name, Cameron Mitchell. Those guys,
and Ronnie Hickman and all that.
He wasn't even out there. It was those two guys, Cameron Mitchell. They were giving up, and Harden. They were getting beat by 33-year-old Hopkins. I mean, correct. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So easy points that the score got run up on. But if we just take it from the 21 points from the turnovers, the block punt, I mean, they only scored 20 points, and we should have been in a position to score more than 20 points in that football game.
Well, we would have been, yeah.
So I feel good about Jim Schwartz staying on, but he might not see it that way. He might see, well, everything is cratering here in Cleveland. I got to get the hell out of here. All right. But this is what you have to do to turn this organization around. The next thing I would do is I would terminate the offensive line coach at the end of the season. Let's be honest. His name is Dickinson, I believe. And there's a guy who was supposedly a protege of the previous Callahan, right? And to be honest, I haven't seen any of the signs that there are any holes for any of our running backs. I don't see that. And if your coach is going to be gone at the end of the year, you're going to have a new coach who's going to have a different scheme and doesn't want the backup to the backup to the backup of Bill Callahan. So you got to terminate the OL coach in order for him to find a job someplace else because you're just being a good human being. You've got to terminate the wide receiver coach because this guy, quite honestly, has been around for years and he has not developed any of the young, whatever you call talent, that's being drafted. There is no improvement that I have seen from any of this. I've not seen one receiver give him credit for making their career blossom. And the guys that we need to bring along are not going to be helped by him. I don't want him touching Harold Fannin Jr. I think you're going to need a new wide receiver coach, and that will all come in with a new head coach. All right. The next one is for me personally to terminate Bubba Ventrone. I don't want them to do it. I want to do it myself. For the life of me, I don't understand how the main last line of defense against a block punt is Ronnie fucking Hickman. Let's get real about this.
No.
The guy got trucked. I mean, he was on his heels. He has no business being in that position. And they almost got their punter, Bojorquez, killed.
Correct. Well, yeah, he's probably hurt. Just to update, I think David Talevsky mentioned that Dickinson was last year. I'm looking at the Browns coaches roster online. The offensive assistant, offensive line guy is a guy by the name of Sanders Davis, and he looks like he's younger than David Talevsky. So I have no idea who he. It's his first year as a coach and a first-year coach in the NFL. Who was at Rice? And he was an assistant with Mike Bloomgren, who is the offensive line coach. So it's Mike Bloomgren is the main offensive line coach.
All right. Dickens is the wide receiver coach.
And Davis is the assistant coach. And then the wide receiver coach is God knows who. I can't make heads or tails out of this. Some other person I've never heard of.
Right. So the fact of the matter is we have old guys on the front line who aren't really doing very well. And it's age, injury. But from a methodology perspective, Joel Bitonio was sold on it. And maybe from a methodology perspective, that's what the line knows how to do. But it's just like a 40-year-old baseball player who can't get around on the fastball anymore. I mean, you may know it's coming, but you still don't have the reflexes to hit it.
Chad O'Shea is correct. He is the offensive wide receiver.
Yeah, Chad O'Shea's been there for way too freaking long.
Not to be confused with Chad OJ, who pitched in the World Series against the Marlins.
Well, thank you for that. So thank you, David, for following up on all of this.
He's like Tony Reale out there in the chat room, old David Talevsky.
Yeah, he helps us out.
I can't even remember the name of that program now.
Neither can I. All right. Now, here's the next thing. If you're able to do the things that I have suggested up to this point, and you have released Kevin Stefanski, you have kept Schwartz, you've terminated the offensive line coach in the hopes that
wide
the
receiver guy and Bubba Ventrone.
That's right. Right. Now you have to hire an offensive-minded head coach.
Ooh,
because
God.
You have Schwartz, who is a defensive mind. You need to have somebody who can open up this team to a new, fresh image. And you're going to have plenty of tape to look at the quarterbacks and the young guys and make a determination as to what type of offense will work the best for those particular players. And they're very different players. Dylan Gabriel is just one one guy. You've got Shador Sanders, who, if he starts getting it and figuring it all out, he's more of a downfield threat than Dylan Gabriel is. And if you're looking at something, and I would find it hard to believe that you'd want to hire another conservative offensive coach based upon some of the the problems, shall we say, of this last regime.
Then you kind of have to have Andrew Barry pick the head coach, because he knows the personnel and he knows what their strengths are, supposedly. So he should be able to find somebody within his contacts that can drum up a game plan that would do it. You don't get D and Jimmy involved in hiring it,
Well, but the fact is, we live in the real world. And
yeah, I know. We don't live in my world or your world, Dr. Moo.
Yeah, in the real world, you could keep him out of it because he's a dummy. You big dummy.
Big dummy.
But that doesn't help us because that's never going to happen. There has to be a meeting of the minds. The fact that the owner doesn't have one, just make him happy. Yeah. Hire somebody to blow him. Do something to keep him occupied. Let him set up the food vendors at the Dome 8 years from now. Whatever it is, let him focus on that, because he's clearly not a football mind, okay?
No.
And he's not a business mind either.
He's older than you and I, so he's going to have diminished skills,
Oh, well, thank you. I'm headed there.
We're all heading there.
So,
assuming we live long enough.
Hiring an offensive-minded head coach does not mean that you just become bomb-centric, but you have to have somebody who has a vision for the players that you have. It also will make a huge determination what we do in the draft next year, where we're going to have some very good picks because we got some in our pocket, and this team ain't going to win this year anyway. Yeah. So, let the new coach determine the types of offensive players and make a real effort for once in a lifetime to get real, honest to God wide receivers. Real people who can run and catch, who are tall and can go over the coverage. I mean,
right. So we want somebody who's tall. We want somebody who's strong and athletic. We want somebody who can catch, and we want somebody who's fast. I mean, they've never had any of those. They've never had that.
I'll tell you something. When we had Ozzie Newsome, he wasn't fast.
He was not fast at all. He was
and Harold Fannin is not fast either, but he gets open and he catches what's thrown to him. And you can't have everybody to be Tyreek Hill or everybody to be a speed merchant, but a good offensive-minded head coach.
I got an idea. Let's trade Greg Larvidan to the Vikings for Justin Jefferson. Did they go for that?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Larvidan should never have been sent down. And now what are they going to do? They better not put Bond back there again, returning punts. That's a horrible managerial decision that's just not looking ahead. Just absolutely stupid.
And no one's going to put their hand up saying it was their idea, are they? Yeah.
And then you have to, the head coach then hires the offensive coordinator that fits your new quarterback or the next one.
Are there any offensive-minded fuckers out there for us to hire? I mean, let's open it up to the chat room.
It's too early. I mean, first of all, if you're going to hire a Ken Dorsey, and I'm not saying we would ever do that again, but you have to let him run his fucking offense. I mean, you can't hire people and then be like Kevin Stefanski and
cripple him
and half-ass it, so that you can come back next year and say, what you need is my 1-3 formations. Yeah, and that's what we have here, and it didn't work. And that's why Kevin has to leave, because we gave him the opportunity, and he, and you can make all the arguments that you want, he's going to get another job and he'll have plenty of opportunities to prove himself with another team.
About 8
Believe
teams
me.
are going to fire their coach before
Yeah, absolutely.
January.
And they like a younger guy who has shown that he's gotten a couple times into the playoffs. He's
Coach
not
of
going
the
to have
year.
trouble finding work.
No, I mean he could end up in Miami tomorrow, or Carolina, or Jacksonville, or New Orleans.
And you want somebody who is not just somebody who is going to, as far as an OC, you're not running an offense for a scrambling quarterback. You take a look at the two guys we currently would have on the roster and the two rookies, and you would say, who has the better arm? Who's the better long ball thrower? Who is more accurate in the short and intermediate routes? Who delivers the ball faster? Who is able to perceive where people are on the field and to be able to read defenses quickly? And that's why it's so essential that these two young quarterbacks that we have get an opportunity to have first unit reps and to play in live action. A loss is a loss is a loss. It just doesn't matter. At this point, you're not playing for anything except to get better, and it's a transitional year. And I think we already knew from an offensive line perspective it was transitional. This is all about, well, can Kevin Stefanski have this team overperform? And I see no signs of that whatsoever.
No.
But he's going to have all year. You're going to terminate him at the end of the year because he ain't even going to hit. He ain't going to get 5 wins, and he'll be lucky just to be hanging around 3 and 4 wins. This team isn't good. And they're already, I mean, you've got Myles Garrett saying, this shit is embarrassing. You know, you got people who are
just wait. There's more.
Yeah, I mean, people who are supposed to be team leaders, and this is what they have to say. So whatever hopefulness there was has just been dashed by reality. And any fan watching the game, I mean, it's easy to sit there and scream and get mad and yell and, oh, this is the history of the organization. But as a business owner and a person who was a strategy person for the business that I owned, there has to be another direction in which you can go. So, again, whatever the offensive coordinator and the head coach's dream of the offense is, the quarterback's got to fit into it. And maybe neither of these young men will be that choice because
they're both totally different people, from a athletic perspective and a personality perspective. So I don't know how you find a guy that can handle both of them.
Well, we're going to find out. You got to build a draft around the offensive line, the quarterback necessary, and the taller wide receivers.
We definitely need offensive line help in the first 2 rounds. You got to get at least 2 guys.
If this season continues with the defense still putting out an effort for Jim Schwartz and doing well enough to give teams a win, then everything that you need to do offensively. The offensive line, you need young, solid offensive linemen. The problem with this is that it may take years to develop them. But the people we currently have are either too old and injury prone, or they're too fat, or whatever the story may be. They're not in shape. They're mentally not sound, and they're making foolish mistakes. You need to have people who are disciplined in what they do and who are coachable. Now, the reason I say offense and not defense, we did see Mason Graham yesterday, and he was working hard and doing a fine job on the defensive line. And he was not really there against the Bengals, but he's a young player, and he's going to learn the pace, the strength, the tempo that is needed. Schlesinger showed better in week 1 than week 2. These guys you have to build around. But if they're playing on a defense that is capable of holding Cincinnati to 17 points and realistically 20 points to the Ravens. And to confound Lamar Jackson for the umpteenth time, it's obvious that Schwartz's defense bothers that guy. So, the offensive line is twofold. You might find a stud that really can be a long-term Joel Bitonio or Joe Thomas kind of guy. That is always an option. The other thing is there may be players like Wyatt Teller when he was playing with the Bills, but playing in the wrong scheme. Whatever scheme you're trying to accomplish offensively, you take a look at who's available out there who might thrive in the new system.
Yeah.
And
we can make a trade for offensive linemen too.
That's what Stefanski and Barry did when Stefanski got here. Was they said, okay, we're going to do the zone blocking scheme, and and there was Wyatt Teller in Buffalo being wasted, and it turns out he was a fantastic executor of zone blocking. So it's like anything else. There will be players floating out there who may specialize in the things you're looking for. Some of them might be older players too. But if you have young guys learning behind them, you will have less to worry about. So these are the suggestions that I make for the Cleveland Browns organization. And I think the eye test, when we see people saying like DeWand isn't the answer, you can't ever tell me, because I'm a guy who's a big guy and I've weighed more than this in my life. And when I was younger, I weighed lesser. And you have to be determined if you have a tendency to be on the heavier side. There are players like Joe Thomas who had to eat their weight on them. And you saw when Joe Thomas retired, he slimmed right down because that wasn't the way he was normally, naturally, genetically built. Now, I'm not saying that DeWand would ever become, a thin trifle of a man. But I would say this, that don't give me the bullshit that you still weigh basically the same amount, but you've redistributed the weight. I mean, I don't want to hear that shit. I mean, that's horseshit. If you're 370 fucking pounds, you're too heavy to play at that position. And the reason you're jumping off sides is because
you're scared.
Well, because you're trying to get an extra half a step because you're
scared.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's get real about this, folks. Kingsbury. I don't. I mean, what a jerk off. I mean, so at any rate, we'll move on to the bits and pieces of the rest of the program. I love it when they come up with who are the winners and losers.
Oh, God.
Loss. And this is so foolish. There are no winners when you get blasted 41-17 to a team that punked you leading into the game. There is just no excuse for this at all. And it's really sad. But, and there's literally, obviously, Joe Flacco's name comes up as a loser. And in the end, the end is in sight for a 40-year-old quarterback. And we knew that going into the season. So the turnovers just kill this team because we don't have the scoring capacity. And 2 interceptions and what should have been a 3rd interception just doesn't look good.
The block punt was horrible too.
Well, that's just, again, another nightmare that revisited with the Bubba Ventrone. It's easy to say, but yeah, Flacco had a bad game. The tackling was so good. You didn't see, like in some Browns defenses, you did not see running backs breaking tackles and getting
No,
three,
not
four
at all.
extra yards.
No, you
They were
didn't see the Olay and the all that bullshit.
dropped
Yeah.
to the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
and Delpit played a good game, so he backed his words up. Good for him. I wished he hadn't opened his mouth, but he played good football. And Henry's career 56 yards per game against the Browns, and now it's less because he only got 24. So that's that. If he doesn't get a head of steam up,
Yep.
he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? Now, of course, a loser was Ronnie Hickman. But you know something? Ronnie Hickman did a good job 2 years ago seeking out the ball as a secondary defender in the backfield.
Yep.
He's
not a main player.
That's right. But he did have a nose for the ball. To put him, like I said earlier in the program, in the last line of defense. Yeah.
No, you don't do that.
My God, that's just the most stupid.
That's foolishness.
You look at that play over and over again, and I'm not going to put it on the screen because it makes me sick. Between his inability to block and just being his weight on his heels, man. I mean, he was in a position where he looked like he was afraid to be there. And they're saying a winner was Cedric Tillman's eyes because of the fluke touchdown reception. And
that's his job.
I call bullshit on that completely. Cedric Tillman is a loser because his hands aren't good. And I get sick of seeing this week after week. I mean, a guy with good hands has good hands. I mean, they don't just drop passes at will. And Cedric Tillman does not have good hands, and neither does Jerry Jeudy. And they pay Jerry Jeudy all that fucking money for nothing. Because he will not get you the important pass reception that you need.
Well, I'm looking at the game stats because I have the game book open. Jeudy had 8 targets and only 4 receptions.
Yeah, and a couple of drops again.
And Tillman, 7 targets, 2 receptions.
That's right.
And one of them was a complete fluke, like we said.
Yeah, and the thing when you're dealing with Jerry Jeudy, and they said, well, he had a career year, but he led the league in drops, and it's just starting all over again. It's not a fluke. Let's put it that way. All 4 of Lamar Jackson's touchdown passes targeted a receiver over 10 yards downfield against the Browns. All right. That's and the reason that happened was not because Lamar Jackson has a great deep ball. He does not. But Miles Harden and Cameron Mitchell, we said this earlier, they were the sole defenders on every single one of Jackson's 4 touchdown passes.
And they got beat to the corner on every single one of them.
Yep. So that's your answer. You don't have the depth back there. And when you want to start putting pressure on people, you start bringing extra men in after the quarterback, and you're going one-on-one with people who are Miles Harden and Cameron Mitchell. And you can't get burned by Tylan Wallace or DeAndre Hopkins at 33 years of age. That is not going to work. And Devontae Walker's touchdowns, these guys were just open, and they were leaning the wrong way, and the one guy cut outside of the end zone, and he was 5 yards behind him. I mean, it's just no good. So winners and losers is real foolishness to me. The media is taking the less productive road that I'm taking as far as saying, all right, shut up about the here we go again bullshit. All right. Stop this always happens to us and wringing your hand.
Woe is me.
Yeah. Like you're some kind of a depressive person. It's like, come on, no Debbie Downer shit. You got to be constructive in what makes your team better. And I know today in social media, everybody's looking for somebody screaming at the top of their lungs like Tony Grossi, or making outrageous statements or whatever, and that's what captures attention. But that's not what brings winning football to teams, and it's not what makes for a good fan base. Not everything has to be contentious, for God's sakes. Sometimes you just got to build with your hands. That's the way it works. And I have not seen hide nor hair of this person, and I don't want to. And it has nothing to do with winning or losing to the Ravens. It has to do with another troll, and don't have time for trolling. It just isn't time for it. There's a time if you want to play a rival and you want to troll the Steelers. Okay, I get it. But right now we have to be constructive in how to make this football team future-proofed. And it starts now by not playing fat guys, 40-year-old guys, or people who are chronically injured. You've got to find out what's worth keeping on the roster and what isn't. And
basically, this is an extended preseason this year,
So it would appear. Jeffrey saying I would hold off on a quarterback, draft a receiver, draft offensive lineman. Quarterback is not going to a quarterback is not going to save this team. Well, again, you can make a much better decision if you play the two young men you've got. And my feeling is there upside for, I say it's hard to say at this point. I'd say that Dylan Gabriel looks like a backup quarterback who might have a decent number of years in the league.
Yeah.
But you let him establish that, because it's better than DTR, you need to have a backup in the future anyway. So I'm not holding off the possibility of drafting a quarterback. And he goes on to say the people want to talk about are not getting open because we have no threat to run the ball. And the threat comes from an offensive line with holes. Even Jerome Ford could run through a hole for 4 yards. There are no holes. There are no 4-yard gains. The bottom line is Nick Chubb in his prime would not get yardage in this because the offensive line is wiped out age-wise. And I agree with you. There is no threat to run the ball. But it's not because the running backs are shite. It's because the offensive line is old and their time has come. And Mr. B Safe is saying there was no time for plays to develop. I won't blame Judy. For what? I don't understand. There was no time for plays to develop.
Well,
the quarterback was being rushed by people. I understand that. Then why was Flacco holding on to the ball and instead of throwing it away, throwing it into a crowd of people? And even after the game, his comment was just bewildering when he said, I never thought it would be intercepted. And it's like, is this the same guy that threw away our playoff game?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes you're just daft and stupid to be playing football at 40 years of age. And that was the stupid side of Joe Flacco. It's like, that's foolishness. So what it amounts to, Jeffrey saying, is that Judy needs to make the easy catches. So I guess I'm going to blame him. 4-yard dig and you drop the ball. I mean, look, I don't like the offense any more than anybody because you're forced to go for fourth down and so many times at a game because you're not getting any, and I'm not even talking about big, huge plays, but, just plays that are 15 to 18 yards.
Yeah.
You're not seeing that. And chunk plays are part of the game. And I consider these intermediate distances when you're dealing with 14, 16, 18-yard receptions. The chunk plays, I don't think we have anybody really capable. I think Judy's fast enough to get down there, but you have to establish pass protection, and you've got to be able to put a move on a defender. We're just sending people out into the flat. On every play, there's a safety valve in the flat. And he got thrown too many times and got hit behind the line of scrimmage. Well, and it didn't matter which running back.
Yeah, he was no longer a safety valve. He was the defense's primary target to kill.
Yeah. Double P's asking me a question. This is Dr. Moo asking Dr. Moo about his particular specialization, which is boxing. Any thoughts on the Canelo fight? They did Canelo a favor by making it and the scorecards appear close. He was clearly beaten. Now, here's the thing. Canelo Alvarez is a guy who's past his prime. And there was a time when he actually had thunder and he could knock people out. It started for him when he tried moving up to 175, which was really not at all a smart thing to do. Got battered and beaten. And then he comes back down and he's old. And he's an old 35, and he's been in wars. He's had a lot of fights. Crawford is an underrated fighter, and you saw what technical skills can do. And if you remember Floyd Mayweather Jr., not my favorite fighter, or Sugar Ray Leonard, not my favorite fighter, but they had hand speed, foot speed, and technical skills. Or a fighter that you really think of as technical, Alexis Arguello, who was not fast of foot, but was a tactician in the ring and setting up his opponents for big shots. I remember when Alexis explained what he did to people, and what he would do is he would throw out punches that were like half speed, half power punches. And he said he would get fighters, his opponents, comfortable with getting tapped. And then he'd unload the big one. And it was incredible watching him. Then he would go to the body and he could knock you out to the body. The technician. And that's what Crawford is. And I felt great for Crawford because he's somebody who he's fought under all of the publicity, because it's more about, again, what people yell and scream and how they behave outside of the ring. And this guy is a real fighter and a real warrior. And obviously he wore Canelo down, and Canelo got tired at the end of the fight. That fight was a clear 7-8 point, not a 3-point decision, but at least they got it right. I mean, I've seen fixed fights, where that isn't the case. So,
see Ricky the Hitman Hatman. Ricky,
he died.
Yeah. Did they ever discover what happened to him?
I don't know, but the way they're covering it here is they're
Suicide?
not saying. So that makes it think like there was an investigation going on. So
yeah, I'm wondering if
I don't want to say anything.
Well, he was supposed to be fighting in
December.
Fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
46 years of age.
46 years old, and
So
he had already had way too many hits to the head.
That's right. You really wonder about that too.
There's a lot of people really upset about that Saturday.
I mean,
a lot of people.
Oops upside the head, Double P. I mean, Canelo was getting whacked, and sometimes it doesn't. You don't need the biggest punch in the world, but many punches wear a man down, and conditioning was huge. And Jeffrey is saying, going back to football, we got one receiving threat, and that's Harold Fannin Jr. Harold Fannin Jr. needs to work on his route running if the quarterback has a problem, and scrambling, right, or what they call scrambling mode. A great example of that is what Tay Flowers did on a very important third down reception from Lamar Jackson, where Lamar had to fight around the edge.
Oh, God, he ran about 80 miles before he found Flowers.
And not only that, but he had a defensive lineman with one hand on him when he threw the pass. Yep. But Flowers made himself available. And I think that's a huge thing. And I'm watching all the Browns receivers, and Harold Fannin is young, running their patterns and stopping. That doesn't do anybody any good. You've got to start going in a specific direction back toward the quarterback to give him a target. Sometimes you fade past and you can get behind somebody whose eyes get caught in the backfield.
In a way, you got to play playground backyard football and try to help your quarterback back there to get open so they can see and make eye contact with them so they see you,
Right.
Anyway.
So, this is what I had to say today. And, I wanted to point out because the last show that we did, there was some freezing. I was telling Bronk this before the beginning of the program that the computer, the laptop that I utilize, is insufficient RAM-wise. And I'm making sure
to run everything.
I'm keeping the instances of my tabs down to prevent that from happening. But I got to get this over to a shop to get the proper amount of RAM. It's only got 16 gigs of RAM in it. I'm running a lot of video applications here, and it's very hungry. And 32 is where it should be. So great MSI laptop, wonderful product. I just wasn't looking ahead far enough when I got this about 3 years ago. And these new studios have a lot more things they have to offer.
Well, they add on all these bells and whistles, and that all is running in the background.
Right.
All these applications, they don't sit idle.
And when you look at your task manager, I mean, you're seeing all this stuff.
Thousands of things on there.
Holy shit! Where is my, where in the hell is my memory gone?
Yeah.
And like, I'll do something for you now before I get out of here. This is what I'm, have discovered. We're using 96% of our memory right now.
Right now, God, no, you're not freezing. Well,
yeah,
you're fortunate.
I'm fortunate. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.
Yep.
All right. So everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. I really hope that this is a constructive program. Instead of yelling and screaming, some constructive ideas on what this organization needs to do. And please, let's get Dylan Gabriel up and getting half of the reps this week, because I have a feeling that Flacco is going to get hurt at the rate this is going, and we need him to be familiar. You can't throw him into the game, into the Wolves, if he's not taking first unit reps.
Well,
it's that simple.
I remember the year coming off the unwinnable season where Tyrod Taylor was started a couple games, and then he did get hurt, and Baker Mayfield had to come in. So let's not have that situation happen. Let's kind of plan for it, is what you're saying. So,
well, because it's going to happen one way or another. It's going to happen. So everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. Moose, thank you, Tony. Thank you, David, for your help as always. And we will be back on Friday, and I'm going to try to get this computer in tomorrow. I don't know how long this will take. I'm in a tough situation because I really want to continue doing Friday and halftime and post game shows. So I'm going to probably have to sit it out here with this unit until such a time that I have time to get this thing fixed. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again end of the week. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Bye.